What's up, guys? Today we're going to start looking at the feudal system. This is the everyday life and how people worried about life in the Middle Ages. So the essential question for this time period is going to be compare and contrast the feudal systems in Japan and Europe. So what you're going to see in AP and in honors world history, and the more you do is you're going to use more of these critical thinking components where you see a comparison of the two. Feudalism is going to develop in response to a need for protection for barbarian tribes and Vikings. Nobles and aristocrats offered safety, usually within the walls. Obvious choice there in a system of rule where powerful lords divide their land among lesser lords or vassals. This is based upon an exchange of land for protection and services. The European feudal system is somewhat neat. You have the king, which doesn't have a lot of power, but he controls land, and by doing so, he's going to give land to these nobles, and the nobles are in turn going to give their help to the king when it needs to be. This is where they're going to give loyalty and service for land, return for land. The nobles are going to go around, and they are going to have knights who are going to promise to defend the lord's land in return for fiefs, power, land, money. At the bottom of every feudalism pyramid that you'll ever see, you always see the biggest amount of people is going to be the peasants, and these are going to be the guys who farm and create the stuff that you guys need or that they needed in order to survive. Knights are going to begin the training at the age of 7. They went to live at the Lord's castle, and they would basically do the grunt work of the time period. You learn to ride and fight. For some of you guys who have ever seen The Sword in the Stone, this would be where he gets off and starts learning how to do everything. You become a squire when you start to learn to care for the armor and the weapons. Strict, they're not really the easiest going people there. At the age of 21, if you have the right bloodline, you're ready to become a knight. You pledge loyalty to the Lord in return for rewards, usually money, land, women, glory. Expected to give 40 days of combat in a year. Coat of arms is that thing that you may have seen at some point in your past history, and this is what you might have hanging up on your wall, but this represents them in battle. This is the way that people will know who they are. By the 1100s, feudal warfare decreases. They decided there was too much battling. The knights were starting to fight too much. We started these tournaments, which were mock battles. There where people go and hang out. This is what you might see when you go to the Renaissance Festival or something like that. But it gives the knights an opportunity to become popular, and it's sort of like your early wrestling tournaments and stuff of that nature. There is a picture of a joust. Some of you guys may have been to medieval times. There's really a lot of interesting time periods and stuff that comes from this. Knights lived by a code of chivalry. This is the way they were to behave. So you had a code of chivalry right there. There's their basic code. Must be brave and loyal to their word. They only applies to the nobles, but they had 3 people that they listened to. Their God first, and then their second was the nobles, and then the third was their women. Placed women on a pedestal, needed to be cherished and protected, and they went after every woman they could for the most part. Troubadours are these wandering poets. Let me go back. Who performed love songs. They were basically the very first rock stars. They would go around and they would sing about stuff, and by singing about stuff, they would sing about some of these knights and some of their missions and some of their conquests and what they do and how everything, in the view of women of the knights into that society. Feudal life expectancy was short. People worked long, hard hours. You're living in basically huts with wood floors, limited diet, black bread with veggies. Family lived in one-room huts with livestock. You kept the livestock in with you because the livestock were worth more than what sometimes your family was. Farming was a family affair. Everybody got involved in it. The more kids you had, the more help you had for it. Nobles women ran the estate and managed the household when husbands were away at war, and peasant women could not marry without Lord's permission, had a difficult but an important role. You basically went through this crappy life because of the fact that you felt like there was a better ending to it all, that if you did really good and you lived your life like you were supposed to, then you got rewarded because you were able to go to heaven. The manor, which is the Lord's estate, this is a system. This is where his castle and the surrounding land. So you're going to have it somewhat set up where you have a castle in the middle, and everywhere else is going to be around. These are going to be where the peasants live and where they actually farm for you. It's the heart of the medieval economy, self-sufficient communities. They didn't really do a lot of trading back there, so everything that happened within the Lord's estate. If you didn't really ever need a lot of these peasants who lived there, they never left the whole estate to begin with. They sort of stayed within the little box that they were given, and that's where they lived out their whole life. Somewhat depressing when you think of it, because this would be somewhat similar to maybe 150 acres of land. You're not literally seeing any part of the world, you're just stuck within that same part. The medieval castles are these cool things that you guys may have seen on television before. I hope you've seen one before, where you've got your drawbridge right here, you've got your moat. It's not really the best place in the world because you've got your animals that live there with you. Everything happens within there, so a battle happens. You can bring everybody inside the castle and then everyone can be safe. The castles are still apparent today. You can still watch House Hunters today and still see where they're renovating castles for everyday use. Usually the aristocrats are still the ones who own this type of land. Medieval manor this is going to be sort of your breakdown of way everything looked at. So you really and truly have everything there. Your villages right there, your mill, your blacksmith, your barn, your manor house, orchard, forest, your fields that you're going to plant on. Everything happens within this certain area. You don't need to leave anywhere. This is, even your priest is right there and just keeps it right there for you. It's a very complex society, but it's basically based upon the idea of you always have a boss, you always have someone over you. Even the manor or the estate system was set forth by saying that you were still in service of the king, and the king was always in service of who? Which is usually God at that time period. So that's why you always have the number one to be God. Hope this helps you out, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.